through the eyes of love, no one's doing anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. That person didn't do anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. And it creates a new pattern for going through the world. It's like very different than what we're used to doing, because we're used to defining ourselves by being better or worse than everyone we come in contact with, and whole groups of people that we've never come in contact with, but that we have ideas and opinions about. And so this is a really different way of living. I have this navigation system, which is, how do I feel? Could I feel better? What am I thinking? Could I have a kinder thought? And over time, it's just created a new life, and one where I feel confident and safe that I can go anywhere or do anything and find my way back to the love, no matter what anyone else is doing.
Hey guys, welcome back to Unbroken Chain. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this episode. This is Baer, who I met up with in Athens, Georgia, where she lives, earlier this summer. I mean, she is just so bright, so funny, so alive. Megan, among many things, is a spiritual leader of the Native American Church in Athens, and she serves medicine in plant sacrament ceremonies, specifically working with Waichuma, which is also known as the San Pedro cactus. She also has a master's in social work, and as you'll hear, she's worked pretty extensively within state-run systems like the foster care system and the Medicaid system, and she ended up serving medicine foremost because of how much it changed her life and healed her, and also because she felt like she could help people through those sacraments in ways that she wasn't necessarily able to through those institutions. This conversation is a gift in many ways, but I think in particular, Megan traces her journey out of depression, and plant medicine happened to be a big part of that, as it was for me. But I think the way that she articulates the changing of her interior universe applies to anyone that's seeking a better relationship to themselves and therefore to the world around them. My experience of depression for much of my 20s was total numbing out, constricting my experience of life to a very narrow bandwidth, and living in a very lonely, pointy-ass world inside of me that I felt like was just my experience of life this time around. I love the way that Megan talks about having a kinder thought. I think for a long time, I dismissed that kind of practice because I thought in a world where we're constantly reminded of the suffering and oppression going on around us, being kind grated against this call inside of me to rise warrior-like to the occasion. When I was growing up, my mom erased the idea of being nice from my vocabulary because she felt like that was used against women, has been for a very long time, to shut them up in various ways, which is absolutely fair and taught me to take no bullshit from nobody. But I really sadly associated kindness with weakness, and it showed with relentless unkindness toward myself. I know that righteous anger has a place, and there are certainly souls in this world who are wielding righteous anger in a way that I respect and learn from. But I also want to read this quote from Toni Morrison about anger, because I think the benefits of that kind of energy is counterweighted with the fact that it can really wear you out. In an interview in the late 80s, Toni Morrison said, "Anger, it's a paralyzing emotion. You can't get anything done. People sort of think it's an interesting, passionate, igniting feeling. I don't think it's any of that. It's helpless. It's absence of control. And I need all my skills, all of the control, all of my powers, and anger doesn't provide any of that. I have no use for it whatsoever." So I think anyone that's feeling a need to shift the anger that they're feeling, particularly in the face of so much injustice so close to home, learning to be tender in the face of negativity is such strength. And women in particular, I think, have been carriers of that form of magic in the world, in the universe, since the beginning of time. And learning how to wield that now is part of the next wave of human experience on this planet. But from a very personal perspective, Megan does a beautiful job talking about how kindness and kind thinking as a baseline operating system can allow you to enter any situation in friendship with yourself, with an ally. It certainly changed my life to walk that path with plant medicine, and there's so much to be learned from the unconditional love of the medicine world that Megan channels beautifully. So with a lot of gratitude, here is Megan Baer. So what does it mean to be a spiritual leader of a Native American church?
Well, it is something that I think naturally unfolded in my life when I started receiving the help of plant medicines that were being offered in California to me through my sister and her husband, who have a Native American church there. And it became clear very, a year or so in that I needed to not be traveling back and forth to California from Athens, Georgia. And that, to my knowledge, there was not medicine being offered near me. And it became, well, I guess you're the one who's going to do it so that I could receive the benefit from it. So with some the blessings that were given to me to offer the sacrament and the help of these mentors in this tradition to advise me. And it's a very medicine-centered practice. It's a living tradition. So being the person who wants to offer medicine means that you're willing to listen to the medicine and move with the medicine, and you're not really following the instruction of human beings more than as a framework, because we want to honor that these medicines are the real teachers. So we try to be to live that by letting their instruction guide us in all of the details of the way that we offer these sacraments.
So when you say it's a living tradition, that means this is something that this is a relationship between humans and medicine that's been going on for a long time.
It seems like it has. I can't verify that, but it seems like it has.
And how do they teach you? How do you experience them?
Oh my goodness. Well, the first time that I went to a medicine ceremony with the Wachuma sacrament and prayed with the sacred pipe, the Lakota pipe, offered together as a conjunction of North American and South American medicines, I got so much help right away. And for me, one of the ways that this medicine, the Wachuma, is described is it's heart-opening and mind-quieting. And when I came to this medicine, I was 36 years old. I had 3 children already. I was married, and I was chronically unhappy. I wasn't taking any medication for that. I had, been seeing therapists for general unhappiness for 15 years or so. And I had a lot of negative thoughts and sort of a chronic negative thinking patterns, mostly directed at myself and about what an idiot I was. And I had so much of that's really all that I knew. And that would make anybody feel generally unhappy. And so I could never quite put my finger on it, but I knew I had a guess that maybe I was suffering. But if that's sort of all you know, it is a little bit hard to discern. So when I came to the medicine, and for a period of time during the ceremony and for some hours afterwards, I was relieved from those thoughts. I just didn't have them. And it was sort of like, being relieved from a chronic physical pain that had kept you suffering for so long. And then, the relief from it was delicious. It was so good. It was like heaven. And, there was clarity. There was a feeling of relief. There was a feeling of elation. And, wow, it really changed my life. And so therefore I thought every ceremony would be exactly like that. And if you've ever had a relationship with plant medicine ceremonies, that's very funny because every single one is different. Although I have always experienced relief and help every ceremony that I've attended, it does not always feel like that amazing and that wonderful in that particular way. But there was no doubt at the goodness and at the help and the true clarity that was being offered that changed my whole life to make sure that I could learn from that more, that I could get more of that help, because I had tried a lot of things, and this was the first thing that had offered me that level of healing and help. And that's what I'm looking for. So I didn't have a lot of confusion about knowing it when I felt it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what has your process been like to integrate that back into your life so that because I think there's the idea that, so you have to continually do these things or go to this high place to get yourself out of the human suffering. Like, how do you make that part of your human experience?
Right. That is my favorite question. I love talking to you because that is where the rubber meets the road. Is what are you going to do with that? Yes. Is this your new addiction? Or you now need your plant sacraments and your ceremonies to feel, the way that you want to feel. The way that I have gotten, I think, the most help and use from these sacraments is by a continued dialogue with a person or persons who is at least a half step ahead of me on this road, who can help me navigate outside of ceremonies, the continued elevation of my thoughts in my life as it is, as I experience it, that I can say things and have a human being who is using the teachings of the medicine to reflect back to me what I'm saying has been very helpful. And I don't think that for myself, I could have be as well and happy as I am today if it weren't for these mentors in my life who continue to help me when I feel crazy and confused about my life, even now. So I think that human beings who are also listening to the medicine have been integral to my personal development to walk this new way of seeing my life into the world.
Yeah, I've heard some people sort of buck at the idea that the only thing we can truly change is ourselves. And if we have this desire to change the world, it's like, you're telling me it's as simple as like working on myself. Like it seems almost reductionist somehow. But I feel like plants have really taught me that, like you said, cleaning up your thoughts really is the foundation of like cleaning up my entire universe. And that really struck me when you were speaking about that, when we were talking on the phone, just the idea of like helping think better thoughts changes everything.
Well, our thoughts affect everything. I mean, human beings are so special in how I have a variety of spiritual teachers and mentors, and we know, I know just a little bit about some of them, and some of them are all about shaming humans for the things that make us unique, like our thoughts, or, you think you're so special. I think we're so special. And I think that it's wonderful to be a human being, and to be like that. Our greatest gift is that we are selectors and choosers of thought that it directs our energy, it directs our vibration. We're very interesting and complex beings. And the more we learn to harness our focus of our thoughts and direct our I would say, vibrational energy, the more fun we're going to have being us. And I think when you're very well and happy, everything and everyone benefits. And you know this if you've ever been around a very well and happy person. It just feels wonderful, and you can't quite put your finger on it. But physics would talk about it in terms of vibration. As vibration is not a new age concept; it's a scientific fact, But what is the new age part has gotten called new age is that you would have a choice, that you could be a selector, and I think that's our most valuable asset, is learning to harness our focus, what you're going to pay attention to. So in my view, in that view, focusing overly on what you don't like and on what is going wrong is like digging a hole for yourself in that. And that naturally solutions, which is what we all want, it arise from a state of well-being and a state of happiness. Anytime you feel good or happy for any reason, you are feeling your connection to your source, to all that wishes you well. And that's, to me, that's what I'm looking to do in my own life, is connect with that as much as possible so that I can receive the guidance that's not profound, but it's more like, I think I'm going to go to the grocery store now. But I received that in a state of mind that I feel confident in is always one where I can receive good advice. And then I go to the grocery store and I run into somebody that there's a useful interaction with, either for me or for them, but there's something wonderful waiting for me. And the only thing I heard from, my inner voice or my inner guidance is, I think you're out of, lima beans. So it's that we would not consider to be profound, but it is a training of myself to understand where I'm getting my ideas from. Am I getting my ideas from my worry and my fear, or am I getting them from my alignment? And, I know what, because of experiment, and I believe only in trial and error and not in, taking somebody's word for it just because I want to try it for myself. I want to see what happens, and then I want to make my own evaluation. And my experience has been that if I am making my choices from worry and concern, and that's literally like the stuff of life, like, do I have enough money? Should I work harder to get more money? I mean, it's the stuff that we're very concerned about. So it's very real, and it seems like we should take it very seriously. But I have noticed that when I am taking action from that feeling state of fear and anxiety and worry, that I get a certain type of result that is not as pleasing to me or amazing or wonderful as the actions that I take from ideas that I've gotten when, I've just meditated, or I've just taken a long bath, or I've done something to calm myself down and relax and play with my cats. I find them to be very soothing. And a lot of people find their animal friends to be a source of reliable and consistent peace for them. So I use whatever I have to feel better, to calm down, because my life has shown me that no matter what I'm thinking at that moment, if I'm thinking something that's upsetting, the only thing to do at that point is to calm down. Like, don't take any action from this state of mind. You can make more messes, or you can, receive more verification of the thing that you were upset about,
Yes. And that's when the impulse is so strong of like, you must do it now.
Yes. Yes. You should really punch that person in the face because it would feel so good, and then they would learn. Right. And usually it's not that extreme, but it's really all the same. It's like some chemicals in our body are having their heyday, and they're making us feel like we should do something. And we're doers. We like to do stuff. So and that's what, it's good. It's just that I'm learning to, I want the good ideas, I want the inspirations. I want the really elegant solutions. I don't want the Megans like sweating it out and squeezing and trying extra hard, only because I think the other ones are coming from a much broader perspective that can see all of these, that can see all of the things that need to come together that I cannot see. And so I want to be informed by a consciousness that is just way broader. And I want to be doing that while I'm a human being. You know, I don't want to escape being a human being. I'm super psyched about being human and making use of the access that I believe that I have to a greater consciousness that I'm connected to.
Well, that's interesting, because I was about to ask you for some perspective from, as someone both that was in therapy for 15 years or so, and someone also that's worked in sort of the Western tradition of providing mental health support to people. I mean, what you're talking about are like deeply liberating keys, I think, for how to be a human. And I was going to ask sort of how you saw plant medicine as being like particularly important, as opposed to, or in addition to, the work that you've done in Western medicine. But it sounds like maybe it's sort of, the keys are in what you're saying about that access to higher consciousness, like something outside of just our minds, which has been much of my experience with Western medicine, is like it's all chemical and it's all inside of this human meat box. But I'd be curious what your perspective is as someone that's
your
done
brain
both.
bobbling along on a stick. It's like your body, and it's so separate from you because you're definitely your brain. Yeah. And it's like, to some extent, it is definitely true that even on a vibrational level, the brain is our organizational, I mean, it's running things, and there's so much complex stuff going on in our brain that we can't understand. And I love neuroscience, and all the understandings that we have only ever lead us to understand more that we don't know. And, you know, I love watching the human beings try to understand what's going on with themselves and others. And I mean, I'm not against any of it. I think Western psychiatric medication has saved so many lives, and I guess I'm for that when it's an option. It is interesting for me because I received the training to be a therapist, and then I chose not to continue with that training and not to become a licensed therapist because I couldn't find my way to believe in some of the things that I would need to believe, or at least say that I believed, in order to be practicing in that way, because of my experience with the plant medicines and their talk about love. And although some of the practices, the standardized scientific therapy practices, do talk about love and do talk about things that I can surely get behind. I mean, definitely, it is generally not considered kosher to talk about spiritual nature or a person's things of a spiritual nature, although many therapists do, and they're not being bad or wrong by doing that, but it made more sense for me to take a direct approach from that way, because that's where I felt the most useful. But I did find in the work that I had to stop doing that, particularly with the clients I was working with in the Medicaid system who were either court mandated or involved with the foster care system in some way, in order to do my job as a therapist properly in that realm, I had to be very problem focused. I had to spend the time that I spent with them doing whatever I was going to do, but I surely needed to write it up as if I was defining this person by problems that they had, and then making a quick list about the specific ways that I was going to address that as their therapist. And it just made me sick. It just was so upsetting. It was like, this is the opposite of what I can do in a good way, or what I think is helpful. And so I have actually found work that I can do in that system that really works for me and allows me to be the person that I find that I enjoy being. which is not the therapist, which is a lower pay grade work of driving people around, of supervising parent and children visits and spending longer periods of time with them with way less paperwork responsibility and less responsibility generally, so that I can be loving with them and so that I can get to know them over time in a lower stress environment where they are less trying to tell me what I want to hear and we're just doing life, and I can be sort of an invisible person who is being non-judgmental and being as consistently loving and kind as I can be in those moments and with those people. And I enjoy my work in that way so much. And I'm so pleased with myself that I didn't hold myself to doing something that felt terrible to me because it was what I had been trained to do. And I certainly didn't need that training to do what I'm doing, but I know how I want to feel, and I know what I like, and I made my life around those things, about feeling the best that I can feel and trying to be a source of upliftment to others. And, this job gives me access to people that I would not find in my spiritual counseling practice or not come to these medicine ceremonies or pipe prayer ceremonies. There are people out there living life many different ways. And I like that through working with a large, mental health provider that gets contracted through government agencies, that I just get to move around and see people. And of course, in my view, it feels like the medicine puts me there and, love wants me there. And I have a lot of amazing coworkers who are on that same trail, and they might not be plant medicine people, but they're deeply spiritual people from different backgrounds who find themselves called to do this, which is spend time with people who are suffering and try to give them something good, and everybody has their way of doing that. But that's the other part of my job, I guess, is what I want to say that I love is my coworkers, is meeting other people that I find that just make me proud to be a human being,
Well, and I have no doubt that the people that are spending time with you are getting medicine through your presence. Literally the plants that you're carrying with you because you commune with them, but also just, I know there are a lot of people who are surprised when people have time for them, when people are available to them. So I'm sure that's a gift you're offering.
It's interesting. Sometimes it feels like I literally had to find myself at the bottom rung of this agency before I felt like I was allowed to be loving. And it doesn't mean, I share my business or cross boundaries at all. It is literally sometimes me saying, sometimes I am in a position where I really can't be friendly, but I can be loving in my presence, but I can't be friendly because I'm in some unusual circumstances, and I can, for sometimes they're for legal reasons that I'm not allowed to be friendly, or because I know this person cannot interpret my friendliness in a way that would be helpful to them or to the case or to me. And so I have found a variety of ways of finding my own alignment, which inevitably puts me in a position of being love wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, without saying a thing. And that's fun. That is just fun. If you're me, that's what I'd call fun.
I know this is a hard thing to ask you to do in language, but can you explore that a little bit, what that means to be love, especially in a context like that where it may not look like what we're sort of socialized to believe that it looks like?
I love that you said that about language. That is very true. Our language is so limited, and it's fun to try to find words that do any of it justice. What I am trying to describe is when I'm feeling my own alignment with my source energy, and I have a practice of doing that mostly that I've developed in the past year when I finally got some meditation instruction that worked for me because it was very low key. It's like simple enough that I could finally get a practice going with meditation. And now I do it, I can turn my attention to that in my own body in a way like that. When I'm driving, when I'm doing anything in my life, I have a way that I can quickly tune into that and adjust and align. And I get a physical feeling in my body that lets me know I'm in alignment. And it's a very good feeling, and I can do it anywhere at any time. And that's what I'm talking about. So, with language, that's what it is. I'm finding my alignment. It makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. I feel a overwhelming sense of peace or happiness in my physical body. It always translates. For me, I get sort of a buzzing feeling in my chest, and it calms my mind down, and it allows me to, if I turn my attention then to a person, it comes through, I hope, in some way. And generally, the folks that I'm working with, and I work with a lot of kids who have what we call behavior issues. And some of them, I have dents in my car from kids kicking them, and a little 5-year-old tried to bite me the other day. It's like they're coming from a high trauma environment, and a lot of them are being moved around and in the foster care system and in school environments where the consistent reflection is that there's something wrong with them, and they are, there's something wrong with them. That's bad enough, like you're defective, and we're sure of it, because I felt defective, and I was a good girl. I was like the class role model in elementary school. I was a good girl. I was a smart girl. I was athletic, and everything was going right for me, and I felt so defective. And these kids are being labeled defective, and they constantly, because of their behaviors, irritate people around them. And so the response they're getting is, you're irritating, and then they're acting out again because they feel bad about that, and then they do more irritating or aggressive things, and then they get more affirmation that there's something wrong with them. And so I spend a lot of time with kids like this, and the adults who bring them into the world, who often have either severe mental illness or drug addiction issues that prevent them from being able to be good parents. But what leads a person to have those type of things is generally similar childhood experiences where they had a high trauma environment and a lot of the reflection that there was something wrong with them. And so it feels like a lot of time it is helpful just to be with the people that I get to be with and not project that there's something wrong with them, sort of pointing out things that I like about them or things that they do well. And generally in my nature, being like I like them, and sometimes that's challenging, and I am not a martyr. And if somebody, is about to bite me, I'm mad. I don't like that. And I will certainly let somebody know. I really don't like that they dented my car permanently, but, and that might be the end of our relationship. However, even when I'm angry, it is a very clear and focused anger that is specific, and it ends. And then also I don't hold a grudge or then paint a picture of what a monster you are. It was a moment. It was a tough moment, and I didn't like what you did when you were mad, and we all get mad, and all of us are working on how to behave better when we're very upset. And I mean that to the core of my being. I have seen so many adults who are very functional and doing well and successful. Everybody seems to struggle and not have been taught how to behave well when they're angry or upset. We have a lot of feelings that it's okay to do anything when you're angry and upset. So when I say that to a 5-year-old, I'm saying, like, this is hard for me. This is hard for my friends. It's not like it's just hard for 5-year-olds. Like, we wish, right? It's just hard. So, yeah. And all of that, I think I've gotten from my teachers and my sister and her husband. It's Georgia and George Bertelstein, and Jeff Wright and Erica Wright, and my brother-in-law, George Burlstein, just published his first book. It's called A Clear and Simple Prayer. And I don't know if I haven't read the whole book yet. It's really like poetry. It's very, very beautiful. But I know from being with him that he talks about having a good reason to behave badly is not the same as behaving well. And a lot of us spend a lot of time giving excuses for ourselves or others' bad behavior. And it's like, at this time in my life, I feel fairly confident that I could be experiencing severe emotional pain due to, my heart being broken or something egregious happening in front of me, to me, or to somebody that I love. And I know that I could be experiencing that worst kind of pain and that I would behave well because of my practice and my choice to do that over time in very difficult circumstances. And I know that that's possible. And I've watched other people do it. It gave me a concept that I could work with in my own life. And I don't feel very judgmental over people who aren't doing that, because I think, well, most of us never got that memo that these were two different things. Your feeling state and your behaviors from those feeling states can be separated and ought to be, because we do so much damage to ourselves and others when we're having our hard feelings. And, we don't have to. And, when we're wanting to live our best lives, certainly I'm still thinking of this one 5-year-old, he's a kid and who knows what he's going to make of the rest of his childhood. But I know for myself as an adult that I don't want to make things worse for myself or my loved ones just because my feelings are hurt or I'm tired and hungry and having my worst thoughts and feelings about myself that I would like to dump on you. I just don't want to do that, because I've done it enough that I don't want to spend any unnecessary hours or minutes making myself and others unnecessarily unhappy. And I have really broken it down for myself that what my happiness looks like, what my unhappiness looks like. When I'm veering off away from happiness into unhappiness, I can generally catch it pretty quick, which is a way better time to do it than when you've already let that monster out of the box. And all for myself, not to be a good person, not to be a martyr, not to be better than anyone else, but only to reduce my own suffering. And, it's working, I would say that's what we like to see, when for a lot of folks, coming back to the plant medicine and how that has personally helped me. And it has helped me by showing me some options in my own feeling state. Like, wow, I'm making myself miserable and there's an option here. So, but if I didn't take action in my daily life with the thoughts that I'm thinking and my willingness to think a new thought, I wouldn't have achieved the great amount of peace and happiness that I currently have, because I've been willing to hold my thoughts up to the light consistently, like and hear somebody else's reflection. If my brother, I don't know if he made this up, but his definition, George Bertelstein, of codependence is your willingness to see another person as small, weak, or fearful. So he says, today it is my prayer for myself that I not see another person as small, weak, or fearful. So a lot of times, I think a lot of times in my experience with therapy is what I was doing with my therapist and was describing to them why they should see me as small, weak, and fearful.
Yes.
And the biggest help I've gotten is from people who refuse to see me that way. And when I start, playing those violins, it's not tough love. It's not that either. It's like being willing to see someone else as capable without your help, and to see ourselves as, not a problem that needs to be solved. And again, this comes from my sister and her husband and their church, and the way that the medicine has talked to them and helped them in the way that they have helped so many people. This is their language. So, we're not trying to argue for our own limitations, which is what a lot of us are habitually doing. And I feel so grateful that I have a sister who is also my spiritual guidance counselor, who refuses to see my life as a problem, even when my life really was quite a big mess and in very real and upsetting ways. She really had to do her own work to be my sister and to love me so much and to be so far away and to allow all of us to have our hard feelings about my life and how hard it appeared to be at the time. And just I want to call it holding space for me to be the person who could totally handle that, hard for a long time, hard for what would seem like way too long. But, that has made me the person that I am. And who knows the map to that, it really gave me an opportunity to know myself and to develop my capacity for endurance and wow. I get to feel amazing about myself because I went through really hard things for long periods of time. And who would want to take that from somebody? When I'm sort of the person who is perhaps viewing other people that way, or that someone might be coming to me for support and guidance. And it's real tempting to feel like you want to be their savior or their rescuer. And then for me, the medicine teaching is nobody needs to be saved or rescued from anything. Everybody gets what they get, and you can guarantee that it's for you because it's you. It must be for you because it's happening to you. It's your life. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? I don't know. That's for you to, that let it, how we respond to these things is our life. It's our whole life. Nobody needs to be rescued from their life. And it was such a gift that was offered to me that I hope to be the person to offer that to others. I would say it can be very challenging not to just feel like I went to, as my one teacher said, I went to vibrate for you. It's like, and so it continues to take strength and courage to watch others suffer and to not see that as a problem that needs to be solved, allowing other people to have their suffering and permission to feel all of their hard feelings and then what? What most of us spend a lifetime and make careers out of avoiding our hard feelings. So the first step that I learned from the plant medicines, but really more specifically from Georgia and George and Jeff and is have your feelings. You can't skip that part. Just have them. Stop putting all that energy into avoiding your hard feelings. We do often go into a fight or flight mode and do stuff to try not to make any actions or say anything, as little as you can, but you got to be the person who can feel your emotions in your own body. And then from there, we're looking to, first of all, more feelings will come. So when you're feeling your happy feelings, they will pass. When you're feeling your sad feelings, they will pass. You're feeling your angry feelings, they will pass. All of them will come and they will go. And, not to be a person who is ruled by them either, other than as an information receiving center, that I'm not going to become a crazy person because, or I try not to be a crazy. Sometimes I do become a crazy person, and that is just all part of it. Is that there's no point at which I am not going to have a full spectrum of feelings, and I'm grateful that I can feel them. And sometimes we say things and do things we wish we hadn't, and we're just trying to recover quicker, apologize faster, try to figure out how to not do that the next time if you can, just by understanding ourselves and oh, I'm really tired today. Oh, when I'm tired is when I have my worst thoughts and feelings. Oh, when I have my worst thoughts and feelings, I notice that I do these other weird things that involve other people. And I want to at least rein in the outermost layer of that. So, like, be so nice to myself today, because I can tell this is coming down the pike. So it might be a good day to not interact as much with people and take an extra nap and find, something nourishing that I make sure I put in my body because, that's mainly what we're operating with. We're so humbled by the physical experience of it all, okay, yes, people do terrible things just because they're tired and hungry. And those things, as we age and as you notice the patterns, like we want to, those are the things you can do something about.
So how do you hold space for people? What was it like to step into that in terms of plant medicine and the ceremonies that you offer?
Well, I tried my best to copy the way that my brother-in-law holds his ceremonial space. And, it was very scary for me. I felt super sick about it. I probably didn't have any fun doing it for the first many, many ceremonies that I offered. And who knows? We talked to the people who attended those ceremonies, but
what was the story that you were telling yourself about it?
Well, I mean, you can only, when you're starting something new, and you have to just go through those awkward moments of you have no idea what you're doing. I had so little. I don't want to say I had no idea what I was doing, even though those are the words that come to mind, because obviously I had some idea. But whenever you're starting something new, you've got to do it a lot of times before you have any. But there's only one way, which is forward. Just do it again, do it again, do it again. Like I had confidence that I wasn't going to hurt anybody, and that was important. And I needed to remind myself about that, and I wasn't going to be like my brother-in-law that first time or ever. Because, at some point I would reach a level of maturity and experience with it that would probably feel better to me and be more enjoyable for me. But at that point, I'm also going to be me doing that. So there was a process of sort of letting go of, first you need a structure to hold on to. And then hopefully, just like my brother-in-law, he's changing his ceremonies all the time because of, listening and responding and listening and responding. And like, how did that go? How did that go? How did that go? And, I would say the first several ceremonies for myself, I felt every time I offered a ceremony in the aftermath, I was like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again. Like, who would do that? That's so weird. Who do you think you are? And then those thoughts would pass, and it would just be time to have another ceremony. And then people would come and we would get the help. And so much of it is, like all things, you don't have to be a perfect person to be competent at doing that. And all of the help and healing that I get from the medicine has helped me on that path. And really knowing that what I'm doing when I'm offering medicine is that I am listening to the medicine myself. I'm asking for the medicine to help me be a good ceremonial leader. The medicine comes through me, but is going to every person. It's coming through me to help me, and ceremonial leader is that. I'm holding the ceremony, but we're all there for the medicine. Me included, very much so, and so I could offer myself some comfort with like, well, no, you don't know what you're doing, but the medicine knows what you're doing. So how about this? You step in and have all of your feelings about it, because you can't skip over that part either now, and be willing and make your prayer as ceremonial leader that the medicine, that you can be the hollow bone, that you can let your navigational system not be your worry and fear, that it be your alignment. And at that time, I wasn't using that language in my own head, but that's what I would call it now. It's like, listen to the medicine, listen to them. All you need to do is be a hollow bone. Do you know how to do that? Yes. Do you know what's happening next? No. And so that, yay me. It does still seem weird. My best validation that ever had, because I'm a white person who was not raised this way. I was raised Episcopalian and, in a non-passionate spiritual environment. And my younger brother came to a medicine ceremony about a year ago, and he is the most seemingly to me conservative member of our family, and he might be offended that I would say that. So he's awesome, and in my own mind represented some type of reflection of myself or the medicine that might make me feel less than comfortable. And what he said after the medicine ceremony, I don't remember if he said it during it or afterward, he was so sweet. And it really was one of my treasured compliments of all time, because he's my brother and we grew up together and we were little kid playmates, making our forts and our Legos and our army men and little kid friend buddy playmates. And he said, Megan, it's just so good to see you doing this. It's like you were made for it. I can see this is the perfect thing for you to be doing. And I was like, really? You think so? Isn't it weird? What am I doing? Because it's so out of cultural context for our recent ancestors, but it's pretty cool that me and my brother and I's sister, our biological sister, do share this as a spiritual path, and that's pretty cool. Our 80-something-year-old parents have come to a ceremony, and my dad is a practicing psychiatrist who still works at 82. Wow. My mom was a trained social worker and school teacher, and so we come from a big mental health focused family. And I think my dad could really see, first of all, they definitely thought it was weird for many, many years. They thought that my sister and I had maybe joined a cult, and they weren't sure that this was good. So don't worry. They had all of their fears and worries about us and about the medicine. And that's why when they finally came to the medicine and they sat in a ceremony, for particularly older white people coming and sitting in place just where they're burning sage or cedar and sacraments and animal bones and feathers. I mean, that's just enough to freak a person out, of this cultural context. And that they were willing to do that, I know that was a lot. However, they were willing, and when they had the medicine in their body, their basic response was, "Oh, is this all this? What? This just feels like love, Well, gosh, we just love the medicine too, I mean, of course, and not that they'll be back, because of all of the other things about it that maybe they don't enjoy, but it's just, it made sense to them. It felt normal. It felt easy. It felt good. It felt loving. And my parents had suddenly had a place to put it all, because they're also very loving and kind people. But so now we can have a conversation about the medicine and in terms of mental health and its applications there, because I'm excited to see where that's headed in the next 10 years, because so many, educated, and I'm just going to say white people, because they have so much power and control and privilege and access in this nation. So in my view, when, educated white people get help and healing from these medicines, stuff happens, suddenly there's studies on it, and I'm very excited for all of the scientific research that's happening now with psilocybin mushrooms and the ibogaine. And no, I haven't heard as much about the ayahuasca and the San Pedro, but the peyote, but there is a lot of research going on. I'm excited to see where that's headed, because that will bring the help and healing of these sacraments into the lives of people who are never going to hear about plant medicine ceremonies and maybe don't need or want that particular container, but could have the help in a different way. And so just as once pharmaceutical psychiatric medication was new at one time. People went from being chained in a basement and just getting shipped off in very unhealthy environments for so long. And then psychiatric medication allowed people to integrate into society with severe mental illness to some extent. And, I'm excited because what I see with the plant medicines that we don't necessarily see with the psychiatric medicine is healing and not suppression of symptoms. And a friend of mine came to visit and was telling me about his friend who is working on establishing a real, when I say real facility, I mean funded and able to accept insurance and things like this, facility for folks with severe mental illness who would otherwise be homeless, who would be assisted by, I believe it was a peyote sacrament in a safe living environment as a path to healing, and accepting those folks for the way that they are, in a way that would allow them to be healthy and not viewed as, again, as an illness. And I mean, who are we to say? I do not want to be the one to say what is normal and what is standard and what is the way. It's like there definitely have to be other ways of being. And we just want people to be basically safe while they be themselves and see the world the way they see and have the behaviors that they have. And so I think that I would definitely venture to say that there's some very exciting times coming in the mental health healing world with the use of plant sacraments in a variety of ways in the very near future, because of the consistent help and healing that people are getting. All kinds of people are finding their way to different plant sacraments in different environments. And, what I'm hearing is close to 100% positive response rate. Now, obviously that's coming through the filter of my life, but I would say it's pretty high. It's higher than most other things, and it's absolutely worth exploring. And, thankfully, like the city of Oakland, I think, just legalized all plant sacraments. And, once one city does that, and sure, it's happening, it's coming. And, it suddenly is starting to seem like a whole bunch of, white oppression and colonialism, that anybody's decided that you shouldn't or can't have these sacraments anyway, because they're helpful and they're healing and they're good. They're so good. Why is anybody saying anything other than that? They're just saying it out of ignorance. And lack of information, lack of experience, and fear, and also control, and financial, big pharma type stuff that I don't worry too much about. But one would guess that's sort of how these things got classified, and who classifying what? These systems some of them are aging out, and when you have young generations of people coming into the world and sharing with an open, I mean, a lot of times these things change because of families, because a member of a family has a positive experience with plant medicine, and it's undeniable over time in that family that this person is having what one could call actual healing. Because in a family, you watch somebody over time. You don't just see their best side. You don't just see them blah, blah, blah. You can see like, wow, they really, they've been improving their quality of their relationships, and they're, manifesting a better job. And, they were just less of a jerk to me at Thanksgiving. And that was nice, like it's undeniable. It's what do you call that? It's on display when a person is doing better and making real improvements in their life. And a lot of times a family member who is vacillating, between their sobriety and their alcoholism, and not to use that one thing in particular, but at a certain point, you can see that somebody is not on the vacillating thing anymore. Like it's palpable. It's palpable. And then, say that you're that person in that family, but your father or your, uncle, your great uncle is like a Supreme Court justice. I mean, it touches people. It touches them through their family members. We've seen that in the improvement of legal rights and for gay and lesbian people is through family relationships. Politicians with family members who are transgender, identify as anything on the gender spectrum. People only learn and change their views through personal relationships. And so I see such a blossoming of people being helped by the plant medicines in a way that it's all on. It is so on. It seems to be touching and helping people heal and move forward from things that other things just haven't been able to touch.
I think that's why I feel committed to being so transparent about it, because I want to tell good stories about it, and I want to expose people to good stories about it. And it took, I think I had probably a similar upbringing to you. It took how many times for me to be exposed to it before I was like, oh, maybe that's something that's okay for me to explore. So I'm so grateful for people like you that are doing that and opening those doors for people to see for themselves and let it vibrate out.
Right. It's not just for a certain type of person. You don't have to dress a certain way or look a certain way or listen to this music or, a lot of times, I don't know. I think initially plant medicine in North America was going through a certain community that did look a certain way, and maybe that's still a thing, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a free spirit. You don't have to be natural. You don't have to be a non-Christian. Bring your Jesus loving butt to these ceremonies. It just doesn't matter. It's not a religion, and it doesn't even have to be a spiritual practice. It certainly offers that, but you can come and get help and healing for physical problems, for psychological problems, for emotional problems. This medicine doesn't care what you believe or what you look like or who your friends are. And that is just such a world of healing for folks. It's a pleasure to be somebody who is holding that kind of party, because that's the only party I want to go to, the one where everybody can come, and where people are there because they want to feel better, and they're what do you call it? They're taking a step in a direction because they think it might help them. It's like, yay. And I hope it does help you. And I think it probably will. And, let's talk about it afterwards. And, I love how loving this medicine is. And I would say it feels, what does love feel like? You were sort of asking me that earlier. What do I feel like if I feel like I'm being love? Well, what do you think? What does love feel like? When you're getting it or when you're giving it, what does it feel like?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Safety, that I'm okay to be exactly as I am.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, just because of my particular, family unit and how I arrived on Earth, was just like one of the lessons that I needed to learn, was even that, like, quote unquote unconditional love. First of all, there is no such thing as conditional love. So that just is love, but just that it's, what does it feel like? And I needed the direct experience that plant medicines offered me to live that, to even know what I was aiming at, because I kind of missed some of that back along the way in my human life. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it feels like acceptance,
yeah.
self-acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah. Forgiveness for the past, gratitude for the past. Yeah.
Like comfort in your own skin. Is that like a loosening?
Yes. I stopped being at war with myself about a lot of things, about my body, about who I was, about the things that I thought I wasn't good enough at and never would be in this lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you weren't that child in the family.
Yeah.
You weren't the smart one or the athletic one or stuff that we start thinking and then keep thinking, and then before you know it, it's a concrete belief.
Yes.
And one that doesn't serve us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think plant medicines were the first time that I even realized I could have a relationship to my thoughts, that I wasn't my thoughts, but that they were something that I could actually respond to and take control of. And that was huge.
Yeah. I think that is probably some of what I would describe as my experience too in that first ceremony. And moving forward is enough separation from my own thoughts that I could see them as a choice to be made and not just me.
Yes.
Me. I am not my thoughts.
Yeah.
I am the thinker of my thoughts. And there are definitely spiritual practices and practices that can teach you about that. And in my view, and I'm not very well educated in Buddhist anything, but it seemed like that is a lot of what they have been talking about for a long time. And I've had yogis, very high level yogis, come to plant medicine ceremonies and say, what? I've worked for so long in my life to get this feeling, and you can just come here and have a cup of tea or 3 and you get this thing that I work for and I practice for. And it's like, that is the thing, is that it's good to be able to access that. However, I want to be able to get there myself too, but I'm not afraid of help. And I think part of sort of healing from the perfectionism that I don't know if it's cultural, because I'm just me, white middle-class person from northeastern United States. I don't know what other people are thinking, but I see a lot of perfectionism and a lot of people coming from all different backgrounds and always finding ourselves defective for not already having everything figured out, or sort of following ourselves around going like, see, there's more evidence of how unlovable, and there's just something wrong with you, and you better not let anybody figure it out because they're about to find out. It's like, that is what a lot of us are thinking about ourselves. And so having some reprieve from that, and then learning how to, I would call it work because it's effort, taking the effort and using our courage and our strength to develop new patterns of thought is very important. So yay for people who get there on the yogi path, but yay for people who get there from the medicine path. It is not, one is not better than the other. It's not like, oh, but you shouldn't be getting help from plants. You should only do it the 20-year practice way. It's like, how about all the ways are okay? And not everyone's going to be on any of these paths. I'm glad that I found my way to something that could help me, and I let it help me, and I continue to let it help me, and I continue to see myself as a person who's allowed to ask for and receive help is an enormous amount of healing for me just as a person. That I am definitely not aiming for being beyond help, or like I have to do it, or I have to be superhuman, or I have to be anything. Like you said, like what love feels like to me is that however I am right now is enough. And how I am right now is I could use a hug, or how I am right now is I do want a pity party. Okay, I'll be over it really fast, but let's have a quick pity party for me. Or, any of the things that I just want to be with myself in a way that is non-accusatory and non-finding of, I want to be nicer to myself. And I always want to be nicer and nicer to myself. And I find that as I have made that what I'll call my prayer for my life, that I can have a kind thought for myself, has been the most deeply effective, life-changing, because when we're talking about, oh, you want to reframe, you want to repattern your thoughts, you want a whole new belief system, sister, like, what does that even mean? It's like, it's too much. You're like, well, I'm going to need 6 more books then, like, I hope I pick the right 6 because I don't know. There's a lot of information about there telling us a lot of different things. Although I would say in this particular field, it's pretty much different ways of always saying the same thing. And I think that thing that is being said is we want to have a more kind thought for ourselves. And I also want to give my brother-in-law, George Bertelstein, props for that particular language, and I don't know where he got it, but I got it from him, is having a kind thought for yourself. Let that be your central prayer for yourself every day. Everything else is going to sort itself out. Mostly when I am being a danger to myself or others, is that it starts with me having some kind of insecurity about myself and my unworthiness, but it very quickly turns into what you did to me or, how I'm going to knock you down or make you feel my pain, even though it stemmed from an unkind thought I was having about myself. And so if I can just steer that ship more often back to, well, how am I feeling? Okay, I feel amazing. Good, you're good to go. What do you want to do next? If I feel anything less than amazing, I want to consider, what am I thinking? And so then, as you said, now that I have the awareness that I'm the thinker of my own thoughts, then I can ask myself, well, what am I thinking? And I'm going to be able to notice what I'm thinking, and I'm going to say, I can do a little bit better than that. Mm-hmm. That's an unkind thought, Megan. That is, you're being kind of mean to yourself. And you think it might be a little hard on yourself right now, Megan. Maybe that's not true, because sometimes we're very convinced of certain areas of our defectiveness, and we have to be gentle. We can't just say, I love myself and not have that resonate in ourselves, and I think that's where a lot of people find, language about self-love sometimes being too something for them to engage with. Like, I'm not that kind of person. I'm this kind of person, and I don't love myself. I'm an idiot. I'm a moron. I know how stupid I am. So it's like it's too head on. And so I like the kindness, self-kindness, or having a kind thought for myself is a little bit easier for me to access and easier for me to use on the go, which is where all of life is happening. It's happening under very difficult and stressful circumstances where we're sure that everything is a problem all the time. So it's a little bit softer and easier for me to engage with. Like, I want to be kind to myself. And I have found with that as the central prayer of my life that I am a lot nicer to other people. I have been able to be a lot more kind and loving with others. And also, I don't tolerate anything less than that coming my way. And or if it does and I can't avoid it, I don't take it personally, because I have such a really wonderful internal dialogue that I've practiced. I've practiced. In my view of the map of my life, I had 36 years of certain types of thought that my earliest memories. I remember my earliest memories were sort of feeling unworthy as a toddler and feeling depressed about being born and feeling like I was a burden on my family. And my parents were great. My family was very loving, and I was so cared for and provided for. And who knows where those thoughts came from? It was certainly not my parents' fault or anything like that. But I did have that type of thinking for 36 years. And I'm so, I don't know if proud is even the word, because I feel grateful. I don't know how how I got to be the person who was offered the relief. But I do know that once the relief was offered to me, that I kept taking it, and I kept figuring out how to expand that influence into my life and how to, let the momentum of that grow and use that as the new, the new standard. It's like, I am no fool. Feeling better feels better. And I want more of that. And now, where I would say 10 years ago, my thoughts about myself were chronically negative. And anytime I did use affirmations, and when I would say an affirmation, it was a relief. Or I used Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now practices, and they were like, I think he even talks about that, which is also describing, exponential growth. It's talking about momentum, which is, it starts out, you're just making a couple of pinpricks in the sky, in the paper sky around you. But if you keep doing that, it will be filled with light soon. I mean, 10 years is not that much time, considering that I would have lived those 10 years anyway. Mm-hmm. And I got to live them in a slow, one step at a time way that has allowed me now, mostly I'm having positive thoughts about myself, loving, kind thoughts about myself and others. And so much so that when I have a thought that is not that, I notice it. Mm-hmm. Instead of the opposite. Instead of like, wow, I feel happy and relieved, I feel like, wow, why am I feeling like such a jerk? It's, yay. I feel like if I can do that, anyone can. You can't really compare anybody's life experiences, but I just really had thought that I was a problem that could A, I was a problem, and B, not one that could be solved. Mm-hmm. And I am real grateful to be still have hopefully some decades left on in this body on earth of being me and being happy, mm-hmm. and just getting to find out more stuff that I like so that I can do it, mm-hmm. and meet more people that I enjoy being around so we can be together, and coming back to just real simple pleasures of life and letting that be the foundation for, the solutions to the big problems that we were talking about earlier, such as climate change, such as, access to clean water and sanitation and being able to breathe clean air. Those are what we would call our big problems. But I truly believe that the solutions to those things come out of individual healing and the communities perhaps that rise up from there that are love-centered and open to being here and not suffering, mm-hmm. Being here and embodying a new way. Maybe it's an old way, maybe we're returning, but probably it's certainly the only now that's happening is probably more like a spiral, because when we talk about returning, because I sort of have a belief that in what Christianity calls Eden, that perhaps there was a time that human beings lived on earth in this connected, embodied way where they were humans connected to source energy and connected to plants and animals in a really beautiful and harmonious way. And then we got some other ideas and then we've been playing that out, but we're not going to go back to that. But like a spiral, we'll pass. Everything that we've lived has not been for naught. It hasn't been an accident. It hasn't been a mistake. It's not bad or wrong. We've been trying stuff, seeing how it goes. And just like I feel like my individual life and the richness that I get mm-hmm. as I age and as I go, what I would call this healing, coming back around with people that you've had hardships with. And if you're able to have love with them again, or forgiveness, as you call it, whether that's just privately in your own heart or actually able to experience with them in real time, it's so much richer for the time apart and for the, and I feel in terms of human development, I wouldn't wish on us to not have ever, let's just say fucked everything up, because a lot of people say that that's what has happened and that's what we've done and humans are so stinky. And it's like, humans are so human, I just don't want to see us as deficient or inherently evil or at all anymore. I think that's what I'm healing is no. And the richness that we will get from being the beings who got to go through all of that collectively, ancestrally, and then we get to come around again and embody that connection after we tried so many other things. And maybe we'll do it again a few times for several thousand more years. But I like this time. I like being here now with this particular set of circumstances. And I can't wait to see the elegant solutions that are going to come from our willingness to be loved, to be human, to have all of our feelings, and to feel our connection to that power greater than ourselves that always feels good. Mm-hmm. It's like if you're not sure, and you don't have to believe in God, and for me, I call that God, but I know it's triggering for a lot of folks. I think scientifically you could probably trace it to we have to come from something, we have to. And let's look at the universe and see what connects us all, even if it's just our carbon molecules or whatever it is, something. I want to just watch us do this thing where we get to make things beautiful and make things beautiful, to dwell in the feeling state that is so full spectrum and complicated, and that we do our part and come around to see like, oh wow, it's all a bit much, isn't it? It's all a bit much, and it's absolutely no, I've completely digressed. I have no idea what I was talking about.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. Well, I did want to ask you about Waichuma specifically as the teacher that this message is coming through to you. Just what it's like and what its spirit is like to you.
Oh my goodness. I have said about it in to stall for time. I'll think of things I've already thought, which is like if you were to sit with the spiritual teachers that we all know and recognize, like Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad, if you were to sit in their presence, or I've gotten a hug from Amma, the living saint. If you've ever sat, or we could imagine sitting with some of these dead, spiritually elevated human beings, I imagine that is what it would be like, because the transmission of the consciousness upgrades that are being received are so personal and they're so kind and loving that it feels like that, where you were to sit with the most, a spiritually elevated human being who knows you and loves you and only wants to offer you a chance to put something down that's not serving you, to have a perspective change that would unlock something that's been troubling you. And the Wachuma is a cactus. And so sometimes you feel the cactus, the plant medicine, the cactusy, I feel it's very interesting. I mean, I have a lot of Wachuma plants growing here, and I don't spend a lot of time with them, but I acknowledge them as the founders of my life and of this homestead and of this ceremonial space. It always feels like, I think earlier I was saying that in my experience, before the plant medicine came into my life, I've had other ways that I was accessing my spirituality. And so I've spent time in a lot of sort of non-traditional spirit-seeking environments. And my experience in a lot of what I will call the New Age community was a finding of the human form to be somewhat less than spirit form, and a longing to be in spirit form. And I'm kind of like, you can have that. Just die now. You want me to help you? No, I mean, I came here to be a human being, and life is for the living. And I think the apex of humanity is to be human and to find your connection to your spirit and source energy. But like, to be that channel, it's so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. And it feels like I've been coming from a perspective that's sort of like the lowly human being and, the amazing God. God is so amazing. And like, I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like God is just as curious about us as we are about God. And I feel that way with the Wachuma, is that Wachuma is like, yay, humans, for sure. Yay, humans. But it feels like Wachuma is having an experience with us as much as we with it. So it has its consciousness, but the merging is the merging. It is not like Wachuma's like, I know everything and you guys just slow down and get the download. I don't feel that way. I always feel like Wachuma's like, this is so cool. And now I'm going to go everywhere with you. What are we going to do next? Wachuma doesn't have legs. Wachuma's not a human. that's my view. That's my experience with the plant medicines and with God, is they like being invited into our consciousness and available all the time. So for me, when I do my alignment, that's me inviting God. God's always going like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And we're like, I'm so alone. God's like, I'm here, I'm here. And we're like, I'm so alone. God's like, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And that's my favorite thing about like friends or family or even counseling clients that you can't reach. It's like, don't feel bad. God and all this pure positive energy is streaming to that person all day, every day, and they won't take it from God. So, don't feel bad that they won't take it from you either. We're all different. And when you merge, it's a pleasing collaboration for all involved. And so for me, I find, again, it doesn't feel spiritual. It doesn't feel better than. I don't feel like, oh, I'm so special now and so holy or anything. I just feel like this is so much more fun to be me and inviting what I'm going to call God in to see through my eyes that I could see through the eyes of love or God, because I'm wanting to, and because I'm inviting myself to, in all these areas of my life. I didn't know that was an option. It's an upgrade. It's an upgrade. And the more I do it, the better it feels. And the more that's my fallback system. And the more I do it, the better it feels. And the more it's my fallback system. And that's the path for me of creating new beliefs and better thoughts, is like, hold on a second. I'm sure that there's a problem. I'm sure that the sky is falling and that I did really mess this one up, or there's not enough of this and there's not enough of that, and this person doesn't love me, so I'll never be loved again. And it's like, okay, see that I've identified a problem. I'm sure. Let me look through the eyes of God and love. And I could have that place perhaps in my brain that the medicine has offered for me and that I've reinforced and strengthened and come back to over and over again. But it's an option now. And when I use it, the problem literally gets smaller anyway. It goes like, yeah, only through the eyes of love, no one's doing anything wrong. I haven't done anything wrong. That person didn't do anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. And it creates a new pattern for going through the world. It's like very different than what we're used to doing, because we're used to defining ourselves by being better or worse than everyone we come in contact with, and whole groups of people that we've never come in contact with, but that we have ideas and opinions about. And so this is a really different way of living, which is like, I don't know, I don't have a roadmap, I don't feel like I know much of anything, I know less and less all the time, but I have this navigation system that allows me to find my way through all of these areas, and somehow keeps bringing me more and more better things that I like, that are pleasing to me, because I turned it over to a new directional system, which is, how do I feel? Could I feel better? What am I thinking? Could I have a kinder thought? And over time, it's just created a new life, and one where I feel confident and safe that I can go anywhere or do anything and find my way back to the love, no matter what anyone else is doing. And, maybe that is what we call healing, because we all have those parts of our life where we're more rigid and we're more sure of the things that we're sure about. And my personal path of healing has always shedding that stuff, like even stuff I didn't even know I was thinking, or I didn't know was harmful to me, or an area that I had either decided that myself or another person or another group of people was unlovable or less than. All of that just keeps being shedded and shedded and shedded. And that is what I'm talking about, and that's kind of all that I'm interested in. And it feels like an endless supply of things to shed myself from. And that's fine, because that's, I hope, like I said, I hope I got a few more decades of living like this and seeing the places that I get to go and the people that I get to love and be loved by, and watching the unfolding of this new path that I think many, many people are on, of letting love lead the way. And some of these people are coming through plant medicine. Some of them are coming through organized religion. Some of them are coming through atheism and a commitment to social justice. And, we're coming from all areas. And what we're feeling is the resonance with love is the biggest thing. And love does not have a belief system. Love is love. And it really... It's both organizing and disorganizing at the same time. It is dismantling and it's organizing. And I love to see how we're reorganizing ourselves now. And the people that I get to meet who are lining up with love that I never would have guessed or let myself meet in the past, that we could be friends, that we could, be co-creators together because we're on the love path and the love navigation system, which is, it's just what I'm interested in. And I think it's the beauty way. Mm-hmm. It's the beauty way. You don't have to figure it out. You just follow along with that. And it's beautiful things are coming and are happening, and we're making them. You're making them. I love what you're doing. I love your hearing about your life and your journey and your sharing of how medicine has helped you, and letting that shine through the mechanism of you is really beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thanks for being willing to let these medicines love you up and bring, shine the light of love on whatever you were thinking before. So you could then decide if you want to keep thinking that or you want to try something new.
Well, like you're saying, it's completely, my life is so much lighter, so much easier to carry now. And there have been moments along the way of walking this path of kind of scrambling as the walls of the castle around me have started to dissolve, of being like, wait a second, wait, who am I? Wait, am I still a person? Wait, I was pretty sure about that. I'm pretty sure I needed that. Wait. And as that's fallen away, the more I've found what feels like myself and realized that the safety that I thought that I needed to create and hold on to all the time is like, I'm held by the universe. I'm held. And if I keep trusting that, I keep finding myself. And that's completely life-changing. And I'm so deeply grateful. So yeah, I'm grateful to be here with you. And thank you for your wisdom and trusting me to share it. So.
Oh, yeah. It's so mutual. I love hearing your wisdom, and thank you for trusting me and coming to see me in my home. And I can't wait to hear about all your next adventures and being introduced to more fun people through you and through our connection. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the you, Maura James.
Well, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Oh, I know. I don't currently have a website. That's something that is next for me. So people can email me and they can be my Facebook friend.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm so glad y'all hung out with us again this week. I hope that carrying Megan into your life is the reminder that it's been for me to be aware of your thoughts, and with humor and kindness and patience, take negative thoughts and offer yourself an alternative. Megan's contacts are in the episode description, and you can always find me maurajames.com and on Instagram at maurajames. I want to leave you with some Mary Oliver, always, because why not? My friend Sarah Knapp, who's been on Unbroken Chain before, talking about her dad who has Alzheimer's, who she takes care of full time, started a podcast where she talks to elders called Wisdom Keepers, which you should check out. And in her first conversation, she was talking about what it means to be an elder. And something that Stephen Jenkinson, who does a lot of work around death and dying, talks about is the fact that not all old people are elders. And in fact, there's a quality of letting yourself be softened to the teachings of life, to being changed by life, that goes hand in hand with, yes, being around this planet for a long time and navigating the human incarnation. but also being changed by that grace. And I love this poem of Mary's because it's a reminder to me to let that process always be underway. I don't think there's an age at which it's like elder training begins, but it's like, how do we let the world teach us right now? There's this really devastating moment in the Amy Winehouse documentary, which is devastating through and through, where Tony Bennett says, life teaches you how to live it. And he says that Amy would have learned that if she'd stuck around. This poem is a reminder that everything around us is fodder, and that life, like psychedelic experiences, it is fantastical and a feast for the senses, but it's also an offering for the evolution of our soul, and we lose out if we don't let that beauty be in service of teaching as well. So here's Mary Oliver, a poem called To Begin With, The Sweet Grass. Will the hungry ox stand in the field and not eat of the sweet grass? Will the owl bite off its own wings? Will the lark forget to lift its body in the air or forget to sing? Will the rivers run upstream? Behold, I say, behold the reliability and the finery and the teachings of this gritty earth gift. Eat bread and understand comfort. Drink water and understand delight. Visit the garden where the scarlet trumpets are opening their bodies for the hummingbirds, who are drinking the sweetness, who are thrillingly gluttonous. For one thing leads to another. Soon you will notice how stones shine underfoot. Eventually tides will be the only calendar you believe in. And someone's face, whom you love, will be as a star, and you will be both heart-shaken and respectful. And you will hear the air itself like a beloved whisper, "Oh, let me, for a while longer, enter the two beautiful bodies of your lungs." The witchery of living is my whole conversation with you, my darlings. All I can tell you is what I know. Look, and look again. This world is not just a little thrill for your eyes. It's more than bones. It's more than the delicate wrist with its personal pulse. It's more than the beating of the single heart. It's praising. It's giving until the giving feels like receiving. You have a life. Just imagine that. You have this day, and maybe another, and maybe still another. Someday, I'm going to ask my friend Paulus, the dancer, the potter, to make me a begging bowl, which I believe my soul needs. And if I come to you, to the door of your comfortable house, with unwashed clothes and unclean fingernails, will you put something into it? I would like to take this chance. I would like to give you this chance. We do one thing or another. We stay the same or we change. Congratulations if you have changed. Let me ask you this. Do you also think that beauty exists for some fabulous reason? And if you have not been enchanted by this adventure, your life, what would do for you? What I loved in the beginning, I think, was mostly myself. Never mind that I had to since somebody had to. That was many years ago. Since then, I've gone out from my confinements, though with difficulty. I mean the ones that thought to rule my heart. I cast them out. I put them on the mush pile. They will be nourishment somehow. Everything is nourishment somehow or another. And I have become the child of the clouds and of hope. I have become the friend of the enemy, whoever that is. I have become older, and cherishing what I have learned, I have become younger. And what do I risk to tell you this, which is all I know? Love yourself. Then forget it. Then love the world.